Conflict will always be there as long as we are human beings. What makes a successful relationship is not an absence of conflict. It is actually our ability to manage the conflict. And that strengthens that's why a relationship becomes mature. Just because we have a way of managing the conflict. So any relationship who comes to say, because we don't have misunderstanding, that's why we are saying we are in love.
Turn around. Turning point, yeah. Hello and welcome to Springboard, your virtual university. My name is Albert Okran. Welcome you to Ghana's foremost developmental program and that place where the greatest minds in the world converge. Springboard is brought to you by the Springboard Roadshow Foundation in partnership with the Enterprise Group and MTN Ghana. This program is live or broadcast to you on Joy 99.7 FM, Joy News Television, and in the graphic group of newspapers. So, we continue our conversation about loving right, loving wisely, and today we explore a subject that many of us can relate to, sometimes with joy because it ended well, and sometimes with pain because we think we could have done something differently. Conflict, and conflict. Conflict management in relationships. Why do some conflicts lead to stronger relationships and others just simply damage what is beautiful, what is lovely, and what is honorable? Helping us to break this down from the beginning to the end is somebody I've known and appreciated for several years. He is a counseling psychologist and well placed to help us understand the role of conflict in our lives. Dr. Asuquo Udofia. Doc, thanks for coming.
Thank you so much. I'm pleased to be here. Thank you, sir.
How big is the subject of conflict?
As wide as human existence on earth, because everyone who lives here on earth would have had one reason or the other to have certain level of disagreement, and that may lead to conflict. So in relationship generally, we would want to say that everything that affects life affects relationship, and everything that affects relationship satisfaction. And relationship satisfaction is subjective. It is actually a measure of individual expectation in that relationship, telling us how widespread conflict is in human relationship. Thank you.
So in a sense, once there are two different human beings in the relationship,
Excellent.
And their expectations are different,
Correct.
There is bound to be conflict.
You are very correct.
What are the most common triggers or the causes of conflict in relationships?
Because we are created differently from our upbringing, we will talk about various attachment theories, what made us who we are. God actually created us differently to be able to meet specific human needs. And so for that, we are uniquely created. That uniqueness, when two people of different perspective or values come together, then conflicts will come. So conflicts will come as a result of unmet need. It could come as a result of unmet values. It could come as a result of unmet expectations, and a lot of unmet emotions could lead to conflict in relationship.
So it would seem that conflict in itself is not a bad thing.
Not at all. It is our inability to manage the conflict that leads to the issues that we are always experiencing. But conflict by itself is very good because it allows us to know who we are. In fact, as an individual, be able to discover ourselves more and then be able to discover our partners. And then we work together to make the best use of the strength that we have in a relationship.
Isn't it amazing that a couple can laugh about something, right next to them, another couple can literally explode because of the same thing. Is there a psychological explanation for that? I mean, the same joke, the same issue, one couple just laughs it over and they give themselves high five and they are moving on. That same issue, next door or next 2 meters away, another couple just literally lights a fire. Why did you say that? How could you have thought that? And then a whole conflagration.
Yes.
What accounts for the different reactions, sometimes extreme responses to almost the same issue?
That's okay. In our relationship, there are a number of things that come into play. First of all is the dynamic change of our needs and values. But besides that, in every relationship, there is something we share commonly with our spouses or any other person in the relationship, things that we vocally speak about. There are other things that are hidden. Is it part of the relationship? Yes, it is. But we've not spoken to the other person about it. And then there are other ones that are unconscious. Whichever way can cause one set of couple to be very relaxed because they've been speaking about it, they know about it. And for the other person who has been keeping it secret or something is triggering him or her from the unconscious level can respond differently. And again, because there are various levels of relationship. When we talk about communication, you see that some power comes into play. And when power comes into play, then we understand relationship differently, which may lead to conflict.
I want to come to the power bit, but let me stay with what you said earlier on about a trigger that has not been mentioned. Let me use a very practical example.
Okay.
So let's say the person went to a village school. Depending on how the securities are, that can be something they can laugh about and say, as for us, we went to village school. But for somebody else, just the mention of it will trigger a sense of insecurity. So I can imagine that if the spouse does not know and sees something disparaging about people who went to a certain kind of school, it may be something that may just be mundane. But for somebody that sees it as a very nice joke that, listen, if I told you I went to village Saito and I'm here today, you won't even believe it and they can laugh about it. But for somebody else, just mentioning something about a village school that does not sound well could almost be like you are trying to disparage or disrespect or dishonor them. So is that what you mean by a trigger, something that has not been disclosed?
Yes.
That's a sore point for the person.
Thank you. And in many occasions, some of them could be, for example, I am afraid of having a friend around me because of my previous experiences. And so anyone who gets too close to my spouse, I will be very sensitive about such a thing. And within me, I have made up my mind that I don't want people to get too close to my spouse. If I see you getting too close to my spouse, it will cause a conflict, even when I haven't spoken to you about it. It is part of the contract. Have I spoken about it? The answer is no. Yes.
So when the spouse does not know this part of you,
Yes,
or this concern that you have, it's likely the spouse will wonder, and where did that want to come from?
correct.
How in your practice, when you sit with couples that have this kind of situation you just described, how are they supposed to know and how do they resolve it?
Thank you so much. So in normal situation, when we are going through this engagement, we call it in-depth assessment. We will try to find out from the clients what they have been able to share with their spouse and what has been hidden from the spouse. During such engagement, you will be able to identify that this one was shared and this one was kept behind. Sometimes they feel it is not necessary to actually share those with their spouse or it's a partner in that relationship, but they know it is part of the contract. So whether it was shared or it is not shared, the person believes that it is part of the contract and it should be honored.
But is it in the contract?
Yes, it is in the contract because the contract talks about what you have spoken, what you haven't spoken about, and what you don't even know about.
Where is the contract?
As long as you have gotten into this relationship, it is believed that you will not know everything about your spouse. And you will gradually get to understand it as you progress in the relationship. Some situations will take place where you will now be able to identify and know that, oh, this took place. But up until that event, you may not know. Is it part of the contract? The answer is yes. And even those you are not conscious of, for example, some things that happen in your childhood days that is actually driving why you do what you do. Certain traumas that might have happened in the past that you don't want to hear about them again.
And you may not know yourself.
And you may not remember, but there are certain things that will trigger them and you respond spontaneously. Those things are part of the package, which we call the contract that you got in the relationship.
So essentially, it's possible that something can repetitively lead to conflict in the marriage or relationship, and the party that it triggers will not even know that it is something from their past that triggers it. And the person who is also triggering it may not even know, but they just know that somehow around this issue, there's some tension they can't explain. They don't know the source, but it's present.
You are very correct. And that is why the psychologists will spend their time to uncover those. So the difference between when we are engaging clients, we look out for the symptoms, but the root cause is very paramount. And the root cause could be far away from the symptoms. It could take you generations to understand that what you're staring at has been going through in 2 generations or even more. Your ability to identify the root cause will help you address the symptoms and deal with the issue of conflict in that relationship.
Just to find out the science of it, from where you sit, when you say generational, is it genetic? Is it socialization? Is it observation? What would be your explanation of it?
Well, when we look at the model that we usually call biopsychosocial model, you will be able to identify that some things are genetic in nature and can come from one generation to another.
Give me an example.
Let me take from a common area and then we'll get to genetic composition. Assuming you have observed a divorce in a relationship and you have realized that this divorce, the grandparents of the people in conflict had divorced. The parents of the people in conflict has divorced. You have seen 2 generations of a particular issue. And then you will be definitely informed that you need to take immediate action, otherwise, because it is generational. This is social, but it has eaten into the life of the people in the following generation, and it can affect them. So drawing the attention to that, the fact that this had happened previously, you need to be conscious of it and work at it will help the people deal with the issue.
So from the perspective of a Christian psychologist,
yes,
it would seem that this will be a case of observing behavior and reproducing it. So it will be socialization.
Yes.
In a certain sense.
Yes, it does. It does. And from a Christian perspective, you know that spirituality has been accepted as a component of the biopsychosocial model. So biological, psychological, social, and now spirituality has been added. So you will look at it from that perspective. It may make a lot of meaning to the couple you are dealing with.
I want to come back to you on the aspects that you say can be genetic.
Okay.
But if you just joined us, this is not a science class, not it's a psychology class. Even though this is my lecturer, just for clarity, my lecturer in counseling class. But I'm just enjoying this conversation, just trying to help our viewers and listeners understand why people behave the way they do in relationships. We're going to come to when it crosses the line and becomes destructive. But are certain behaviors inherited genetically?
Yes. Yes. Why we will look at it genetically, though we may at a point look at it from various theories. If you look at various theories, you will say that from one generation to the other. Biologically, you use certain concepts to explain why certain behaviors come into existence. And if it happens again, you can connect the triggers and say, this person was like this, and so is reproducing its kind. And remember that certain things, certain environmental factor can actually impact a certain generation, which in the next generation become a genetic issue, and then it progresses in that area.
When do conflicts cross over and become destructive? You say conflicts in themselves are not necessarily bad. When does it become destructive?
When it's affecting the other person. So it is actually not the conflict, but it is the values that is affecting the other persons or parties in that relationship. So the people will look at, it is not the issue of whether the conflict is or the issue is right or wrong, but the individuals, how they consider the matter at hand will lead to conflict. And when it becomes a major issue where each of them cannot contend with, then you will need a support.
Let's talk about self-awareness.
Okay.
So how does a person even know what triggers them? How do you know what makes you, as they say, misbehave? What is it that, how do you know what it is that when you hear, so you can at least help your spouse to know, sweetheart, this particular area, when you talk about it like this, I find that it really makes me feel disrespected. Then there can be a bit of harmony. I mean, how do you even know yourself what it is that triggers you?
So you want to understand your emotions. You want to know how things happen to you. Normally, the way we receive things is from the values we have created. Based on the values we've created and believe, we think through those. That's what we call the cognition. From the cognition, from the way we think, we feel a certain way. From the way we feel, we eventually will behave in a certain way. So the behavior is the end of what had started from the beliefs and the values. So identifying the unique ways that we feel, perceive the information will help us know how we will respond. So the conflict, the emotions that we have come as a result of the way we feel. And the feeling could be as a result of the anger, could be as a result of excitement, could be as a result of guilt that has come, or sadness, and so on. Identify those and be aware of who you are. Being aware of who you are is your ability to recognize it, your ability to understand how they come, and then you will be able to manage it. If you don't identify it, you may not be able to understand what is going on. So identifying it is key. Understanding it is very important so as to help you manage. So your spouse can help you identify. Then you will now understand, oh, this is how I behave. And
identify, understand, and then manage.
And then manage.
So you mentioned your spouse can help you. I was going to say that how does it cross over to the other party? But now you've answered it by saying that your spouse can also help you identify. So in cases where you yourself can't even tell, your spouse should be able to tell that, listen, if I'm following the sequence, every time this kind of issue comes up, it elicits this kind of reaction, in which case the person can help you identify a trigger that you have that you may even not be aware of.
Correct.
So essentially, would it be your position that for marriage to work, there must be a conscious effort by both parties to really understand the other party?
It is very important. Very important in the sense that we are coming from different backgrounds. We also have different upbringing. We had different association with different groups of people. Just when we were mature, we decided that we want to come together. Coming together at that point as a mature person demands understanding of who we have been coming up to this point to be able to come and stay together. Unfortunately, during the dating and courting, we usually will bring our best foot out. and there's a lot of pretense because we want to woo the other person, and so we'll bring our best out during that period. Unfortunately, again, it is during the time we've married, come together to stay, that we now realize that this is the real person I have been courting, engaging, and now I am married to.
Not the white sheet and tie that you saw. Does it lead to sometimes from your practice? Do people get shocked when they unwrap the package of the person that you marry?
Yes, there's one question that we usually ask. Knowing what you now know, or looking back, to what extent do you think you knew your spouse at the time of marriage?
And what's the answer?
And the answer will be, not as much as I thought.
What percentage?
It varies. Okay. Some will say I knew, and some will say not as much as I knew. Some will completely deny that I don't think I knew him or her at all.
Do you find some who say I knew, but I didn't really care?
Quite rare, but some will say I thought I would be able to change.
Let's talk about this change thing. Is it a realistic expectation to go into marriage hoping to change somebody?
Behavior modification is a complex thing. Yes, people's behavior can be modified, but your belief that you can modify that behavior when you are in a relationship is a challenging one.
Wow.
So it's not as if you cannot modify, because you need that person's commitment, you need the understanding of the person, and we also need your commitment in terms of patience and other support to modify that behavior. And whether the person sees that behavior as necessary to be modified is a different ballgame entirely.
So I can imagine a home in which teasing is a normal thing. Everyone talks at some level of decibels. They enter the house and they start talking and teasing. I mean, you tease people till they cry, and that is how you show affection. You know, there are homes like that. Mm-hmm. And then you're coming from another home where it's a very calm, quiet, measured. It will be probably a culture shock if the person thinks they can tease you just like that and get away with it, because you think, oh, but how can you be so cruel? But yet, the way the person came from, that's the normal way they show love. I mean, in a situation like this, how can you even manage it?
So normally we want to look at the person's attachment. The first one, we call it secure attachment, where someone receives love and also gives out love. In other situations, we are very conscious of the fact that I may be experiencing disappointment, and so I have to protect myself, for example. And the other one will say, I don't want to get closer to the person at all because it may cause a harm to me. Yes, I want to be with you, but I don't want to rely so much on you. Those differences come in because of the upbringing and the background that we have at the beginning. And so that gives room to the other person, because of your upbringing, to be able to accept those kind of relationship and reaction without feeling anything wrong. And the other person who is so reserved, it also speaks about, concerning personality. So your personality could change. And if your personality is not that type, you are the type who wants to go in and call in and feel comfortable in your space. If anything of that nature happens, you feel quite uncomfortable.
When we come back from this break, I'm going to ask you why people don't just communicate about their discomfort. Why would somebody even go into the cave and hide in that cave for years, and you think everything is fine, but it's not fine. And then one day it just implodes, and you're like, where from this? And you say it's been there for years. And you say, but why didn't you say it? We'll talk about when to communicate, how to communicate, and then why some seem to have found an equilibrium, a certain way of managing their conflicts, and they make it look so simple. And you're like, hey, what about yours is so different that the same issues you are handling is so comfortably? Let's talk about that when we come back from the break. This is Springboard, a virtual university. I'm sure by now you're breathing in and out and saying, this is real. Stay there because this is a real issue. That's why you're here. This is about conflict management in relationships. Dr. Asuquo Udofia is helping me to understand how conflict originates. The fact that it's normal, but even more importantly, how, if left unattended, it can become destructive. Understanding the triggers and how to respond to those triggers. Springboard, your virtual university, is brought to you by the Springboard Roadshow Foundation in partnership with Enterprise Group and MTN Ghana. Let's go for a break. When we come back, let's break down the issue of resolution. How do you find some way of resolving the issues that seem to come over and over again? Please don't go away.
Going to the library. Going to the library.
Okay. I'm going for my graduation. Go well.
Education changes stories, and being part of these stories is the real passion for us. MTN.
No stress. Submit your insurance claim online in just seconds on the Claims Express portal. Simply upload your national ID, cost estimates, pictures, and more to get started. Submit online, track progress, and get paid fast. Skip the paperwork and get back on the road with ease. Visit claimexpress.enterprisegroup.net.gh for easy claims and quick payouts with absolutely no stress.
Enterprise, your advantage.
Learn something new every week and be inspired by innovations, impact, and success stories of individuals making strides in the agricultural, agribusiness, technical, and vocational skills sectors on Ghana Grows Ejuma with Arabo Kumsin and Yabitha. Join us this and every Thursday on Facebook at 7 p.m. at Ghana Grows, also at Comfort Okran A and at Albert N.E. Okran. On Fridays at 4 p.m. on Joy 99.7 FM and on Sundays at 5:45 p.m. on TV3. Ghana Grows is an initiative of MasterCard Foundation in partnership with the Springboard Roadshow Foundation. If you're a young person and you want to be a part of our various interventions, call or WhatsApp Ghana Grows call center on 0308 255 775. Follow us on all our social media handles. Ghana Grows Ejuma. Hope Day.
Welcome back to Springboard, a virtual university, and to this incredible conversation about conflict in relationships. And my guest, Dr. Asuquo Udofia, he's a counseling psychologist. I'm just trying to find out why people behave the way they do and how they can navigate themselves into a relationship that is beautiful and that is well and smoothly aligned. This is brought to you by the Springboard Roadshow Foundation in partnership with Enterprise Group and MTN Ghana. Our media partners are Joy 99.7 FM, Joy News Television, and of course the graphic group of newspapers. Let me give you an enterprise advantage tip. And if you are looking at the medical enterprise travel insurance, the question is, are medical emergencies abroad included in the enterprise travel insurance? And the answer is yes. Depending on your plan, you can get up to $150,000 for medical expenses. That sounds like a good amount of money. This includes hospitalization, treatment, and emergency transport. You want to know more about this? Call Enterprise Group on 030-263-4704. Email info.trustees@myenterprisegroup.io. Enterprise, your advantage. Let me tell you why you must get your fugu. This is the biggest word in Ghana and globally today, fugu. And I'm so happy because anything that puts made in Ghana products on the world map is big for me. I will inflate it with a big tube till it is blown apart. And I just love the fact that many of us are responding to things in this very unique way of wearing our fugu. I should probably have been wearing fugu on the show today, but if you are thinking of buying an authentic fugu, designer made, call my friend Abiawuni, Fugu Plus. The number to call her on 024 795 1118. 024 795 1118. That is proper, authentic fugu. But the way she would design it and make it, yours will be different from everyone else. And that is the great Abiawuni. Buy from her. I buy from her and you will just love it. And that is my contribution to Made in Ghana products. So get your fugu and enjoy it. All right, so back to you, Doc. Let's talk about communication. How can couples communicate how they feel well so that relationships don't get torn apart, but rather brought together? If there's something triggering or causing conflict, how do you recommend that couples respond to it?
Thank you so much, Rev. And so we will want to take an I position, I statement. That I statement talks about your feeling. So first of all, you take an I position. I feel this way.
What you do makes me feel this
way.
Rather than you are this.
Thank you, rather than blaming. Okay. So you first of all take the I position and express. Number two is, that follows immediately, is you are expressing your feelings,
okay,
and not blaming.
Okay.
When you take that I position, express your feelings and not blaming. The role of the other person will be to listen. Oftentimes we listen to respond, not listening to understand what the other person is saying. So in communication, we will listen to understand the person, not to listen to have a response that will be equal to what the other person is saying, because that person is expressing the way he or she feels, which you need to understand, and that will help in managing the conflict or escalating the conflict.
So instead of saying, you don't respect me,
thank you,
I will say, when you talk like that, I feel hurt or disrespected.
Thank you.
So then I've not put the blame. I've told you how I feel. And you are saying that when your spouse tells you that, don't adopt a position that says, but listen carefully and understand what the spouse is saying. What would you call the signs, the signs that a person is listening well? Is it the posture? Is it writing down notes? What shows that a person is actively listening and not just listening to respond?
Thank you. You have an eye contact.
Okay, first eye contact.
Yes, so you have an eye contact. And then if you want to demonstrate active listening, you have to keep other things aside. Your spouse is talking to you and you are looking at either a device or you are paying attention to other things. That creates a noise that will allow you filter the information, but the person is not feeling connected. So keep other things aside and be able to rephrase the word I heard you say. That allows the person to fully understand that you were listening and you have communicated back the way he or she expressed himself. Okay. So rephrasing, like asking,
yes. Are you saying that, like asking for confirmation of what you heard?
Yes. That's an active listening. And the person will now appreciate that you actually listened to him or her and that you are taking into consideration what he communicated. And then you pause again before you respond.
So that pause of a few seconds before responding, what does it do?
It allows you to relax yourself and also communicates to the person that you don't have a pre-made response to what he is saying, that you actually thought through what she or he was saying before you responded.
It's a few seconds, but it can make a difference.
It makes a lot of difference. It makes a lot of difference.
Do you find that people don't know these simple, yes. I almost call it tricks, but it's tricks that doesn't sound too positive. These simple tips.
Yes.
And therefore it costs them in relationships.
It does. And oftentimes, if you find that it is too difficult for you to have that conversation at that time, can you ask for a time? A break? Maybe if you are too emotional about that issue, can you ask for a few minutes or few seconds and so on and so forth and move away? That allows you to relax, calm down your emotions. Then you come in. At that time, you are not fully influenced by the way you feel, but you can logically understand the point. Either it is the unmet need or the values that is at disagreement or the emotion that is at play. It gives you that opportunity to reconnect and understand the person, and then you go back to have that communication.
Wow. So as you listen and you hear and understand how the person is feeling, what kind of commitment will it take for you to decide that, listen, if the person has been kind enough to tell me how they feel, then I owe it to them to act on it?
Yes. So relationship is about commitment.
Okay.
Part of it is passion, and then the other one that is an intimacy. So that commitment is a demand on the other party. Yes, it might be a very tough conversation. Is the time right for that conversation you want to identify? If the time is not right for that conversation, can you ask for a more appropriate time? More so, it could be that the other party is too emotional about that conversation. Can you request that, can we talk about this in another day, another time, maybe 2 hours from now, and so on and so forth? I know you are really emotional about this, and I promise I'm going to address this issue as you would like me to do so. Can we talk about it?
If you have a history of making such promises and not keeping them, the person will say, no, let's talk now.
You are very correct, and will insist that you talk at that moment. But it is your responsibility to knowing that talking about it at that moment may not help. It may cause the escalation of the conflict. Your responsibility is to be able to negotiate.
How dangerous or otherwise is writing your thoughts or feelings when you are emotionally triggered?
Journaling.
No, in text or message to the other party.
Oh, to the other party. It's quite, because you may not be able to think logically about how you feel at that point. You are overwhelmed with the emotion. So we will recommend that you hold on a little bit. Think through it again. Give yourself some time. When you give yourself some time, you realize if you had written it at the first time and you give yourself maybe 30 minutes, come back to read that same message. You will obviously edit it, because that first feeling is not what is going on after 30 minutes, because you are now rationalizing the words you selected and how the tone of the word you selected and how that will communicate to the other party.
Are there instances when, after even editing twice or thrice, you want to leave it overnight?
In fact, you leave it overnight. So I will always recommend that you give it some thoughts. It is always good, because when you write it and send, you have created a record and you have made a reference to it that the other person will keep. At every point in time, one of the major challenges is talking about the past when you are dealing with a current issue. But the party, because of the message you send, will make reference to that information. And making reference to that information will allow both of you not to address the current issue, but go back to address the previous one. And when you cannot address one issue at a time during conflict, you will escalate the issue.
So when there's a conflict going on, are you saying that we should try as much as possible to stay with the issue at hand and not link it to other things?
When there is a conflict, it is recommended that you stay on the issue that you have at hand. Address that issue without bringing others. You did this before. It is known that this is your behavior. You've always been doing this. Making those general statements will trigger or escalate more issues. So stay on the issue, focus on it, complete it, and then you can move on to another one.
Let's talk about the role of third parties. You have this friend, and you go and tell them, hey, did they say that that person can literally pour fuel in the fire? Another friend will say, oh, you know what, Albert? Sorry that things got so bad, but have you thought about this other angle? How important is the kind of relationships that we keep?
In fact, talking again about the text, at the spur of the moment, you are receiving the message. And the next move is, knowing how close my friend is to me, I send that message to my friend. Can you imagine what my spouse has done to me? Normally, we want to keep marital issues personal and seek someone who can help us professionally. Originally, friends are biased. And so they have already taken a biased position.
Say that again.
Friends are always biased. They will want to speak in your support.
Okay.
And so speaking in your support is taking your direction. How are you sure your friends are going to be very objective in the issue? And being objective is only when you have understood the issue holistically and not just picking the bits and pieces and join together to think you can address that issue. So you must understand the issue holistically to be able to suggest. And that is the role of a psychologist or a counselor, to do an in-depth assessment, understand what are the symptoms which we usually will run to, leaving the root cause. And so when you have that good understanding, it is easier for you to address the issue holistically.
Does it take a special kind of people to make a determination or commitment that no matter what kind of conflicts they face, they'll work their way towards peace and progress rather than destruction and separation?
Yes, that commitment is necessary. Like we will usually say, conflict is necessary to build a relationship. That the maturity that will be found in that conflict is what determines the love and not the absence of conflict. So that commitment to work together, redesign the relationship that is growing. But the relationship that breaks down is as a result of poor management of the conflict, which in many occasions could come as a result of poor communication.
James chapter 1 verse 19 says, everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. For those who speak quickly and respond very quickly, can you give a massive response to an issue you didn't even hear well?
That's the issue. You can't, because you don't even know so much about the issue. Even if you heard well, there is a cause, a root cause of that issue. And some of the things that we see today might have been managed over a period of time, that what you have just heard today is a small portion of it. And so you need to understand the detail of the issue to be able to speak to the issue in full.
If a couple is listening today and they say, you know what, now that I'm hearing you, I understand why we easily respond in unique ways when we have an issue. And they want to begin to build a roadmap, not just for a current conflict, but a mechanism for ameliorating conflicts when they rise. What should be the first step?
Share everything and communicate openly.
How?
So when there is transparency, which gives room to trust, the transparency will build a certain level of trust that will allow the couple to share everything openly. So you talk what is senses and even those that are nonsenses. Another major thing is, how do we know ourselves? How do we understand ourselves? So if we could speak to how we understand ourselves in terms of our emotions, which will be responsible for the triggers, and then we have an understanding of, are these issues specifically as a result of a met need, what we have at hand, would we classify it as unmet need? Would we classify it as a value issue, or what we will call a surface need, like household chores and so on and so forth? And then you come to talk about issues of values when you are looking at responsibilities, or you want to talk about the issues of stress, like you are working and you are also dealing with issues at home and so on and so forth. Those ones will come in addition to you remembering issues that has not been completely dealt with, that is coming into this relationship. If you can identify which category this belong, then you begin to compartmentalize them, put them at where they belong. You will now be able to address the issues in their order of importance, and that will really help the couple to proceed from there.
At the mention of unresolved issues, there are some issues that are fundamental to the way couples are socialized or wired individually, that until somebody shifts their position, there's no way they can move forward. Imagine a couple, let's say one is a counseling psychologist, and by the nature of their work, they close at 9 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is a banker.
Mm-hmm.
They also close 8 p.m., 7 p.m., 9 p.m. Obviously, if they have a certain traditional way in which they think the home must be organized, there's an expectation that something will fall into a particular way. But the reality of work does not make it happen that way.
Mm-hmm.
And one says, but this is what I believe. The other one says, listen, this is the reality that we have on the ground. If they don't find a convergence point, they can, I have a feeling they can apply everything that we're talking about here. But if they don't, somebody doesn't shift their position and say, you know what, maybe this is how I grew up seeing things, but this is our reality. It may keep resurfacing.
Right.
He doesn't help at home. He doesn't help with the homework. It could keep coming back over and over and over. What did they do?
In such a situation, we look at shifting from a very comfortable zone. Taking example, I have to be at work and my spouse has to be at work. We must devise a means where we shift to the center, which is moving from the end of the continuum towards the center. Look at what is real about our current situation. What can we compromise and what can we not? And do that negotiation. In many occasions, yes, we may find an alternative in dealing with those issues that were so conflictual in nature, if we are careful in examining the case and say, I am not passing a blame to anybody. This is the reality. How do we deal? So we separate the person from the issue and deal with the issue as if it is our issue and we are dealing with it together. We are not apportioning any blame, but we want to be accountable to all this. And in such occasions, you might realize that yes, the work demands so much from us. How can we make use of the holidays? How can we make use of the leave period? And in such situation, you are going to be planning your leave period to coincide with each other so that that unmet need, that unmet emotion, and so on and so forth can be provided for during that period. Again, when you have a little time, instead of assigning the responsibility to each party, can we do this together? For example, we are preparing the dinner when we come back. Can we prepare the dinner together? And that time will be a quality time for us. Can we decide that when we are coming back, we are keeping our devices aside? So take off time. And so we are now connecting with ourselves, and then we do things that will help us, build our relationship. Can we plan of working out together? And during the workout, we will agree not to discuss the difficult issues because it's going to create another tension. And so we are doing our routine workout during that period. But if we need to have a tough conversation, we create a time for it and plan things together, and we will be good to go.
I was counting the number of times you use the word together, cooperate together. Is that a secret to really letting conflicts lead to stronger relationships, working together and cooperation?
You are correct. Working together, talking together, doing everything together will really help. Reason being that when you do things together, it gives you the opportunity to talk about everything that you are doing. And in doing that, you are building the intimacy.
Let me read a quote by Dorothy Thomas, who's a social researcher and peace advocate. She says, peace is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to just cope with it. Will you share that view?
I completely share that view. Conflict will always be there as long as we are human beings. What makes a successful relationship is not an absence of conflict. It is actually our ability to manage the conflict. And that strengthens that's why a relationship becomes mature, just because we have a way of managing the conflict. So any relationship who comes to say, because we don't have misunderstanding, that's why we are saying we are in love. Check it out.
It's possible there are hidden things that...
A lot of them. Let the conflict come out and you are able to talk about it, devise a way of managing it, and then you are good to go.
Let's sign off by looking into this camera and speaking to a couple that is saying, everything you see, they say, maybe there are issues. Give them something they can start with on their journey to building a lasting, meaningful, connected relationship.
The first thing you will do is believe that it is doable, that you can walk through this challenging moment, and this challenging moment is going to make the best out of your relationship and is going to make the best out of you. Open up and be transparent in whatever the issue is. Have an understanding of the various triggers that you have. Give them the names and build a relationship that will help you to address those conflicts. Understanding that conflict is not by itself the issue, but it is the pride that is associated with it. It is the name calling, it is the shame that is associated with it that leads to the conflict. So if you could deal with all these, conflict by itself will strengthen your relationship and will make you a better person, both in terms of your strength and the strength of your relationship put together.
Dr. Asuquo Udofia is my guest for today as we try to explore how to build meaningful relationships, especially in managing our conflicts. Doc, thank you so much.
I'm really grateful.
Make me a promise that we'll do this again.
We will do this again.
Because there are several issues I would like us to explore borrowing from your expertise in managing conflicts.
We will do this again. It's a commitment, sir.
Okay, so before you sign off, let me just give you a trivia one. So if you cursorily, without any scientific method, evaluate maybe the couples you've dealt with the last 1 year and look at the way we are managing conflicts and give a percentage to it, what percentage will you give it? How well you are doing?
Well, before they even come to you, there's already a conflict.
What percentage?
Because almost all the families that will come to you, they naturally will not come to you first. They would have attempted resolving the issue by themselves. They would have gone through their friends. They would have gone through their family members. And then they finally will come to you. So it's almost like...
Last resort.
Last resort to 100%. Whenever they come to you, there's an issue that they cannot resolve, and they are trusting your skill and expertise to be able to resolve that. Will that eventually break the relationship? The answer is no. So in many occasions, they have identified the issues and they know that they cannot deal with the issue and they are coming to you. So in many occasions, when they come, there is already a conflict between them.
If you had a chance to speak to it, would you say it should come a bit earlier than the time that we come?
I would so, because naturally, like you would do your routine assessment, it is recommended that you do a check-in do a self-evaluation of how are we faring? How is our relationship faring so far? If it is an annual ritual, it is always good. So you check in after every year. And in doing that, you want to, before you do that checking, you want to build a vision that your family will be led by. You want to look at what are our mission in this relationship and think about the core values and the things that you are setting out to do. You can develop a charter and you can even develop a tracker. That tracker will allow you to evaluate at the end of the year how you are faring, and then you can put in additional input and so on and so forth.
One thing is certain, if a lot of thought and effort is invested, the
Yes.
marriage will thrive.
Marriage will thrive. I agree with you. Thank
This
you.
has been an absolutely enthralling edition of Springboard Udofia University with my good friend, Dr. Asuquo Udofia. He's my friend, but he's also my lecturer, so we have a special relationship over the years. But he's a counseling psychologist, and we've been talking about conflict management in relationship. I believe that you've picked up some extremely helpful tools to help navigate your way forward and love right, especially in this month. So this has been brought to you by the Springboard Roadshow Foundation in partnership with the Enterprise Group and the MTN Ghana. Our media partners, Joy 99.7 FM, Joy News Television, and the Graphic Communication Group of newspapers. So till we come your way again next week, my name is Albert Okran, saying God bless you, and God bless you.
Going to the library. Going to the library.
Okay. I'm going for my graduation. Go well.
Education changes stories, and being part of these stories is the real passion for us. MTN.
No stress. Submit your insurance claim online in just seconds on the Claims Express portal. Simply upload your national ID, cost estimates, pictures, and more to get started. Submit online, track progress, and get paid fast. Skip the paperwork and get back on the road with ease. Visit claimexpress.enterprisegroup.net.gh for easy claims and quick payouts with absolutely no stress.
Enterprise, your advantage.
Learn something new every week and be inspired by innovations, impact, and success stories of individuals making strides in the agricultural, agribusiness, technical, and vocational skills sectors on Ghana Grows Ejuma with Arabo Kumsin and Yabitha. Join us this and every Thursday on Facebook at 7 p.m. at Ghana Grows, also at Comfort Okran A and at Albert N.E. Okran. On Fridays at 4 p.m. on Joy 99.7 FM and on Sundays at 5:45 p.m. on TV3. Ghana Grows is an initiative of MasterCard Foundation in partnership with the Springboard Roadshow Foundation. If you are a young person and you want to be a part of our various interventions, call or WhatsApp Ghana Grows call center on 0308 255 775. Follow us on all our social media handles. Ghana Grows Ejuma. Hope Day.